Shabbat Shalom and welcome. This is Torah Study for Shabbos. I'm Rabbi Ed Feinstein here at Valley Beth Shalom and in beautiful, sunny Encino, California. Joined this week by a very, very dear friend, Rabbi Donnie Massing, one of the great teachers, a great performer, a great chazan, a great singer, but most of all, a very, very deep and sensitive soul. Donnie, welcome. It's delightful to have some time to learn with you.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful. I'm just delighted to be with you. It's a kavod. So thank you
We are about to
and a
begin
pleasure.
Parshat Noach, the second Torah portion of the Torah, of the
Yeah.
book of Breshit. But before we jump into Parshat Noach, you've just completed a book which is soon to be
Yes.
published. Talk to me about
Yes.
this book.
So the book is called Kingdom Become, and it's an exploration of the Promised Land because one of the most overused sentences you hear is, "Well, it says in the Bible." Well, it says a lot of things in the Bible, and some of them are at variance with each other. Some actually contradict each other. Plus, the Bible is not a book, it's a library, it's a collection that includes in it a lot of different texts that have been collected over 800 years at least until they're finally canonized. So, my exploration is, what is this promised land? Why is it so important? Is it that important? Was it always that important? How big is it? What are the boundaries of the promised land? Is it a conditional promise or is it an eternal promise? Who promised it? Is that the purpose God took us out of Egypt? So that's the book, and I think it will surprise and I hope really interest people. I think it's important because right now, this idea of the imperative of sitting in the entire promised land in the maximalist view of what it means um, is actually very relevant.
Hmm.
So none of this has dimmed one iota since it first was committed to writing. And think about that. How many things do we know in our lives that are 2,500 years old and are relevant now? I don't mean in general in the 20th century. No, now, today, right now, for us here, whether you're in Encino or me in Palm Desert, or in Israel or in England, doesn't matter. The issue of the Promised Land is vital, and I think this is an exploration that is not done as biblical scholarship on the one hand. On the other hand, it's also not done as a theological essay. It's done as a textual examination of what is written in the Bible and only in the Bible. No Rashi, no Midrash, no nothing external, just compare and contrast text in the Bible itself and see what happens. And I promise you, it's a doozy. It's really, I've never been that excited about anything I've worked on in my life. It's just fascinating. So
Wonderful. Now, of
that's,
course,
yeah.
you bring a fascinating background to this because the Promised
Mm,
Land has been such an
mm,
important part of your growing up and your character, right? Your
yes.
grandfather quite literally wrote Israel's Declaration of Independence, um, and
I
your
helped write the
parents.
first draft. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it's a lot more than that,
Okay. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
And your parents, in their own special, remarkable ways, have contributed to this
My
land. You grew
great
up there.
grandfather, yeah, my great grandfather was the first American Jewish philanthropist in Eretz Israel. He was
Wow.
the largest owner of land in Eretz Israel outside of Keren Kayemet Israel
So
in
what? Given
1934.
that background and given that you grew up there, and it
Yeah.
had such an important part of your background, your inner life. So
Yes.
what does promised land mean to you?
Oh, there's the question, right? To me, it means what my grandfather, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, instilled in me, and that is, it is the place in which we are supposed to perfect ourselves to the point where we become an Or Lagoyim, until the point in which Isaiah is proven right. That's what the promised land is. It's not a physical territory that is inherently holy in and of itself, because the Torah makes very clear that the land itself can become contaminated. The land
Mm.
itself can vomit you, it says. The land itself will turn on you. So even the land is supposed to be holy, right? The Shemitah is not for my sake, it's for the land's sake.
The Shemitah
This
is
is an
that
extraordinary
once in seventh year, the sabbatical year of the land, right?
sabbatical year of the land. So meaning that the Torah is even looking at the earth itself as being capable of becoming holy if we make it holy. It's not holy in and of itself. It's a point to which we are supposed to travel and then make ourselves. Just to tie it in with Noach, my Rebbe, the Honi Stoppel Rebbe, Shlomo Tversky, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, said, Ele toldot Noach, Noach. The result of Noach is Noach, meaning a tzaddik is not born a tzaddik. A tzaddik makes themselves a tzaddik. And then we read, Aseh lecha teva. Make yourself a teva. You're not just born a teva. It's not like, oh, Yafi, showing here's a
Teva means
teva.
ark. It means ark. The
An
ark that
ark, right?
knows.
It's not just appears there. I have to build it. And so my attitude towards the promised land is that it is the place, it is a physical location, but that I have to make the embodiment of what a perfect society, an ideal society in the way of Hashem is. If I don't do that, Gewalt.
Now,
That in and
what
of
you
itself becomes,
right. And
becomes
what
an
you've
abomination.
articulated has a little side of controversy to it. So let's
Sure.
point that out, right? There are
Mhm.
many in both our community and the community in Israel who would offer the opposite, who would tell you
Right.
that the purpose of Torah, of Judaism, is for the land itself. The land is Judaism. The land is the sum total of what the Jewish story is all about. And
Yeah, no.
you have offered the reverse of that, the obverse of that.
Yes, yes, yes. And if you'll read the book, not I prove it. The Torah will show you that it's a fascinating thing, because the amount of times are just in Vayikra and Leviticus, it tells you what happens if you don't take care of the orphan and the widow and the stranger who dwells among you.
Hmm.
If you don't observe these things, if you don't love your fellow human being as yourself, if you don't help your enemy's ox or his fallen donkey,
Mm-hmm.
then the land will vomit you. This is extraordinary. And only once is there a pasuk, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, to bring you to the land of Canaan. I am Adonai. The mantra is, I am Adonai, your God, who took you out of Egypt in order to be your God. Liyot lechem le'elohim. That's
Right.
the phrase. It then gets repeated many times. Only one time does it say to take you to the land of Canaan. Other than that, doesn't say that. That's not the purpose. So, of course, it talks about the promised land from the beginning with Abraham. But if we look at what God says to Abraham in the beginning, it's a tiny little sliver of a little bit of Yehuda and a little bit of Shomron. That's it. That's what he's saying, because God says to Abraham, look, Sa'inecha, see what you see? This land I'm giving to you, okay? Abraham is standing at that time in the Shomron. What do you see in the Shomron? Have you been to Israel? You know. You see a few hills here and there. You don't see the sea. You don't see the Galilee. You don't see Egypt. You certainly don't see all the way to the Euphrates. You just see what's there, which is, as we know historically, is where the Judeans and the tribe of Ephraim, the main tribe of the 10 tribes of Israel, that's where they live. It's in a very small, narrow, as opposed to Eretz Chemda Tova Urechava, it's Eretz Tova Chemda Ve'meod Metzumtzemet. Really, really narrow. That's the first utterance. Now, you'd think, if I'm going to talk to you about the promised land, from the Euphrates all the way to the sea, from the Lebanon all the way to the river of Egypt, I should tell you that up front. But it doesn't do that.
Mm,
And that in and of itself, Zomer Dersheni, you have to start looking at it. And what happens is that as you look at the text, it keeps saying to you, wait a minute, that's not what it said before. And by the way, what am I to do with the people who live there? There is no consensus about that in the Bible. There
mm.
just isn't. It just is in flux all the time. And so we have to look at it very carefully and examine. But no, the point was not to bring us to the land. I specifically not. When we look at Shmot and we look at the book of Exodus and God taking the children of Israel out of Egypt, liyot lechem Elohim, so that you will become a holy nation unto me, a nation of priests. That's really the ikar. And it says that I'm doing it le'enei kol hagoyim, in the eyes of all the nations. This is how you're supposed to be. It doesn't say so that you can go and inherit the land. That is
Mm.
an ancillary thing to God's relationship with the Jewish people. It becomes very central. And I want to make really clear, we belong in Eretz Israel. I believe in it. My family believes in it generations back. I haven't dimmed one way about that. That's not the point, whether or not I belong there. Of course I belong there. I come from there. We are the indigenous people of Eretz Israel.
Hmm.
So are other people, but we are indigenous to the place. So that's not an argument that I have. It's not whether or not I have a right to live there. Of course I have a right to live there. That's for me that's not an argument. The question is, how am I to live there?
Mm.
What am I to do when I live there? How am I to behave when I live there? And that to me is the ikar. That's the point of Judaism. That literally is the point of Judaism, that people live wherever they live. Good, they live wherever they live. How do you behave in the land which you inhabit?
Mm.
Who are you as a mensch, as a ben adam? Who are you? How are you supposed to be? And that's really what the book is exploring.
So, at the risk of diverting our Torah study, which we will, I promise you, we'll get back to,
Oh
and,
yeah, we
and at
need
the
to get to
risk of
Noach.
at the risk of touching upon too many politics. So, if you start with the idea that you've just articulated, that the land itself is not the goal. The land itself is an instrument. It's instrumental
Mm,
to the creation of a certain kind of human being and a certain
yes,
kind of community and a certain
a
kind of and a
society.
vision
Yes,
of the world as it ought to
yes,
be.
yes,
Then when you open the newspaper in the morning and you
yeah,
read about things that happen,
yeah,
where people reverse that and make the
yes,
land, somehow wholly independent
yes,
of the people who live upon it. Um,
right.
Given the fact that you are your grandfather's grandson, his heir, his scholarly heir, how do you respond to that? How does that make you feel?
Me'ai ochila, as it says
Yeah.
in the Nevi'im, right?
Translate for us.
My guts are on fire.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's infuriating. It's so many things. It's overwhelming because it's so much part of me, and I
Hmm.
am so much part of it
Right.
that I can't, just because I live in Palm Desert, I'm not disconnected from. I can't disconnect from it. Uh, so it's very very hard for me, and 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 I say that understanding full well that only if you've gone to Israel and you've stood where King Saul fell on his sword, or you stood where King David walked on a roof to take a look at someone he wasn't supposed to, do you understand that there's no other place like it anywhere.
Yeah.
There is something about it that is so it's inexplicable because it's not more beautiful than Spain or Italy or Switzerland or Thailand. That's not the point of it. There's something about it that's extraordinary. I
Mm.
maintain that it's extraordinary because it hasn't been imbued with extraordinariness. People have, as Yehuda Michai, talks about the fact that so much we have poured so much of ourselves into that land, into
Mm.
those stones, into those houses, into those trees, that sure, it has an effect. It, think about it. Something becomes holy, right? Because we make it holy. Because we do that. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam. We will make your name holy in the world. It's, in other words, if I don't do it, it's who cares whether or not God is holy or not? If I don't do something about it, it's irrelevant.
Mm,
It's my action that actually, in that sense, makes God holy. This is an extraordinary thing about Judaism, is that it's an active verb. It is not an idea or a philosophy that we sit and ponder, go, oh, that's such a lovely idea. No, no, no. It's are you doing it? Are you acting that way? Because it says kedoshim tihiyu is a command. It's not. It would be lovely if you could find the time to be holy. It's not what we're
mm,
being told. It's hey, holy now, and that's it. It therefore my attitude towards the land is not only da bifnei mi ata omed, but da al ma ata omed.
mm.
Da heichan she'ata omed. This is
Yeah,
not just
translate. You
stam.
got to translate for us,
So
okay?
not only know before whom you stand, know what you are standing on,
Hmm.
where you are standing. This is not just a place. This is a place that people have given everything they had to
Yeah,
for the past 3,500 years.
right.
It means something. There's a meaning to it. And when I when I when I relate to it, when I interact with it, I have to somehow make myself aware of 3,500 years of humanoids who came before me
Mm.
and did what they did in that place. If I don't, I shouldn't be really talking about it. That's for me. I'm very severe that way. I'm a zealot in the reverse direction. But it's the zealotry is the same zealotry, right? The emotion is the same emotion. It's the same personality profile. I'm a kanai for reconciliation and peace and love and compassion. I'm very zealous about that. I'm uncompromising about my insistence on compromising, and which is Israeli, I guess, in a true sense, right? There's no gray. Um, even if I'm not sure, I'm definitely not sure. I'm not just not sure. That's
That's a
right.
wonderful way to put it.
But
So let's turn for a moment to the Parsha.
mm,
Every now and again, there is a news story that comes across the papers that an explorer slash
right.
amateur archaeologist
Yeah, yeah,
went
yeah.
to Turkey, climbed Mount Ararat, found some old boards, some wood,
Yes.
and declares, I have found the remnants of Noah's Ark.
There you go.
What do you
Yeah.
do with that? How do
I
you
don't
read that?
care. I don't care. To me, literalism kills the Bible.
Mm,
Anybody who takes that book literally, I need to put like surveillance on them. Watch out.
yes.
Nothing good comes out of literalism with the Bible, right? It says in the Bible, so now I have to go kill Amalekites, like I know who they are,
Right.
like if there's any DNA evidence of Amalek. The issue, of course, of Tevat Noach is it's not even a story that's pretending to be historical. There is no historical context in it, in a sense. It's just stuff went really bad, and God just goes like, you know what? Chob nish koyach anymore. I'm done. I've had enough of this. Do me a favor and die, all of you. Which Yodhe Vavhe is wont to do every once in a while in the Bible, and somebody usually later on pleads with them. But in this case, it's very, very specific. Listen, here's what I'm going to be doing. And now you're going to be really one person saves the entire world with only two animals. This is not an author who's trying to convince me that in the year 736 of the rule of King so and so did Shalman Esa come from Assyria and do whatever. That's a
Mhm.
historical narrative. accurate or more accurate, let's say, but it's historical. This is a story. This is a myth, but it's a myth that has uh, an extraordinary power to it. And what is it saying to me? It's saying to me, look, uh, you can look at the world as stam. Yeah, it's just, it happened. Boom, and then stuff happened. And then, because of nucleic acids and whatever, and the proteins, there's a world. And then there's evolution, and so stuff happens the way it happens. There's no reason, there's no purpose, there's no meaning to any of it. I can't live in that world. I live in a world in which, as the Zohar says, God, and there's a point, and that point includes in it this soup of no physicality, no liquid, no nothing, and has no dimension. But in it is the potential of everything that will ever come to be.
Mhm.
When we think of a fertilized egg, well, a fertilized egg becomes Mozart, or it becomes whoever. In other words, it was all there, right there. So it's not determinism, but it's that the mechanism for everything to happen was implanted in it. Now,
Mhm.
in that kind of a world, there is a purpose, there is meaning. And the meaning, according to the Zohar, for instance, the Book of Illumination, the greatest mystical writing of Judaism, 13th century Spain, um, tells me that the story comes to tell me that this is the triumph of the moral human being over the strong, the rich, the powerful. It's not the strong who's going to survive. It's the moral one who's going to survive. It's the ish tzadik tamim haya bedotav et haElohim italech noach. A totally perfect, righteous human being in his generation, one who walked with Elohim. That one is the one to save the world. It's not Hercules. It's not the biggest dude out there. It's not the strongest guy out there. And that's going to be repeated in the Torah, right? It's David is going to win with a slingshot against a giant. This idea of the seemingly small, which Jesus will work on afterwards, right? The meek shall inherit, the least shall be, the last shall be the first. That idea that which you think is, who's that to save the world? No, that is such a tzaddik. The entire world is being saved because of that person.
Mm.
That's really what the Parsha is trying to tell me, is that you have the ability to make yourself such a tzaddik that the entire world can be saved because of your effort. And I believe in that with all my heart.
Mm.
It's a Torah of individual responsibility for the state of the world. And that lo alechem lecha ligmor, right? It's not the task is not yours to finish, but you are not absolved from working on it, right?
Mhm.
You can't. You have to do what you can do. And so whether there was an ark or there wasn't an ark, or whether it fell in Mount Ararat in Armenia or in Turkey or in Saudi Arabia, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Any more than did the Exodus actually happen the way they said it did? Did they travel the way they said they traveled? I don't care. That's not the power of the story. The story is the power,
Mhm.
right? Elie Wiesel teaches us that coming out of Auschwitz, that the story in and of itself, the ability to tell a story,
Mhm.
that's the point. And so, yeah, I mean, great. They should go look for a lot of things. They should look for, I mean, they've been looking for the Holy Grail, the chalice, the Ten Commandments, the Ark of the Covenant. I don't care
Yeah.
because I don't look at it.
Mhm.
My
S-
emunah,
yeah.
yeah, it does not depend. By the way, if my emunah depends on an archaeologist finding Noah's Ark, then I don't have any emunah,
Right. Well,
right?
your faith isn't much faith,
It's,
right?
yeah, no, it isn't. It's, yeah,
So, but now the story begins. It actually last week's Torah portion ended, and this story begins
right.
with a sense of who God is, and it's a
Yes,
God who is disappointed.
yes,
It's a God who creates a human being, in the image of God, gives that human
Yes.
being all of the possibilities of the world,
Yes.
either in the garden or outside, but all of the possibilities. And then the human being messes up the world. So,
Yeah.
so what do you make of that image? It's such an interesting image of a God who had such hope and such love and such plans, and we just disappoint God.
I think that we're watching whether we are doing, and just kind of goes, there's two names of God are used in the story intermittently. That's a whole other fascinating story about who wrote this narrative, because it's two different groups wrote this narrative. Uh,
Yeah. And they're
One uses
badly
Yod He
smashed
Vav He.
together, by the way.
They're very
Yeah.
oddly right, and
Yeah.
almost like the editor went, "Hey, I want you to see the seams. I
Right,
I,
right.
I
It's
want I
it's
want
very,
yeah.
very rough. Very
I'm not
elsewhere
hiding it
it's
from
very
you."
exquisitely edited. Here the editing is it has to be on purpose. It has to be on
Correct.
purpose that we, as you said, we get to see the seams. It's like those
Yeah.
buildings where they leave the beams
Yeah,
uncovered,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's almost like a modernistic writing. I want
Hmm.
you, it's like Brecht theater. I want you to see the stage lights and the cables running on the stage. That's when you can suspend disbelief.
Right.
Only if I show you
Right.
everything, now you can go, okay, now let's look at the story. So
Right.
both Yud He Vav He and Elohim are horribly disappointed. And I don't blame them. In other words, I think the authors are looking at God and going, oh my God, I mean, can you imagine? I put all of this into being, all of this, handed it to you. I made you in my image and my likeness. What on earth have you done with this? What is
Mm.
wrong with you? I mean, what more could I have given you? I gave you everything. And this is what you do with it? You know what? Let's wipe the slate clean. Harav Kook talks about Harav Kook. When I say Harav Kook, I mean the father, the genius, not his son. So Abraham Yitzchak Kook, who was the first chief rabbi, Ashkenazi rabbi in Eretz Israel, genius, a brilliant, wow, out there thinker, Hasidic, Kabbalistic, but a man who speaks about the holiness of pagans and the holiness of the socialist kibbutzniks, and
Right.
drove Orthodox people nuts in Eretz Israel
Hmm.
because of his openness to them. But he says there are two kinds of holiness: holiness that builds and holiness that destroys. And holiness of destroys is holier than the first one, which I find fascinating. Because he says the holiness that destroys is not there because it wants to destroy, it's there because it wants to build something better than what was before.
Hmm.
And that the idea that God uses water, this the mikveh, right, uses what we are going to, if I become a Jew, I need to go into a mikveh. I need to be born out of the water. I need to
Yeah.
come out of it. So this idea of washing the world clean. Now look, what are we living through right now? I'm looking at the world now and I'm going, good God, I mean, really? Really,
Hmm.
after all these years, this is what you've arrived at: 4 years of a Russian thug raping Ukraine.
Stealing
October
stealing the
7th,
chil stealing children.
stealing children. Yeah,
the,
right. Uh,
why the world isn't screaming louder about that? It's
Extraordinary.
just extraordinarily evil.
Extraordinary. October 7th.
Right.
And on and on and on. You can get so many acts of evil that happen in the world, and you look at it, and then you hear now the administration get permission to drill for oil in the Arctic nature reserve. Okay, why don't you just blow up the world and we'll be done with it? But that's what this is talking about. It's talking about a point in which humanity has lost its mind. People have literally lost their minds. They've lost their ability to see, look in the mirror and see, oh my God, look in whose image and likeness I was made.
Mm.
They've lost the ability to see God in each other. They lost the ability of seeing God in plants, in animals, in nature surrounding them. No, this is all for me to make money. Well, I've got news for you. It isn't. And I know it takes a long time for it to happen, but it does happen eventually.
Mm.
The problem is that when it happens, it's not only the wicked who are going to learn a terrible lesson, it's all the innocent learn a lesson that's terrible too.
Mhm.
It that's the very problem is that everything then gets wiped out because nishcheta haaretz, because the earth has been become so corrupted that at a certain point there's a point of no return. There are, we know from human relationships, right? There are relationships where you look at each other and go, "Oi, this is no, this is not fixable anymore. This is just going beyond." It happens. It's heartbreaking when it happens. It's tragic,
Right. Right.
but it happens. And this is what we're looking at is this extraordinarily relevant, beautiful story is that we're there. If anybody thinks we're not at 5 minutes to Noach, they're not turning on TV or reading newspapers. Uh, and they're not watching how people are driving on the highway like maniacs, aggressive, crazy, nasty behavior. Uh, why? People have lost. We in Israel we used to say "ibedet tzafon." They lost the north,
Right.
meaning they've lost the compass. It's
Yeah.
just they're spinning around. Everybody's upset. Everybody's angry. Everybody's aggrieved. Everybody is, no, no, you're, no, you, no, him, no, they. Nobody knows anymore where to point, and that's where Noach comes in. And look, Noach ish tzaddik tamimaya b'dorotav. The rabbis, and I disagree with them vociferously, say, yeah, he was an okay tzaddik, but just in his generation.
Right. He was
But
the best
but
of the lot. The best of the
he was the
lot.
best of them.
Yeah.
But Rish Lakish says, and Rabbi Yochanan's student, the guy who used to be a Roman gladiator, was one of
Right.
my favorite rabbis in the entire Mishnah. No, is awesome. Rish Lakish says, no. Can you imagine being a perfect tzaddik in the absolute worst moment in history? Do
Right.
you know what kind of a tzaddik he'd be in a normal time?
Yeah.
You wouldn't even be able to stand how much of a tzaddik. It's like, I think, can you imagine what it was like in Germany in 1941 to save a Jew? You
Right.
had to have been out of your mind to do that. It was so dangerous. To me, Gentiles who saved Jews during the Holocaust, they're on a level that I don't pretend to get that. That's a
Hmm.
kind of heroism and a kind of moral righteousness that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's an ish tzaddik tamim haya bedorotav. In that generation, in the worst of the worst, that person was a perfect tzaddik.
Yeah.
That's
So
how
so
I
we,
look at Noach.
at VBS we used to do a program, and we still have some context where we would invite those people or their families or their descendants to come to the synagogue and allow us to honor them. And I remember there was one experience we saw again and again and again when we would ask people. We had a young man who was one of a young policeman in Copenhagen at the beginning of the war. And one of his jobs, he worked for the underground, was to bring Jewish families out of Copenhagen down to the harbor, put them on fishing boats, and take them
Yeah,
across the isthmus to Sweden.
Sweden.
And
Yeah,
that's why Denmark ended up saving 90% of its Jews. And he was
yeah,
he was a young man doing this. And we asked him, like, did you know what the dangers were? Because the Gestapo would not only kill him, they'd
yeah,
kill his family. I mean, and why would you do such a thing? And the universal response of people like this is exactly what the Torah says about Noach. Ish tamim. He'd look at you and like he didn't understand the question.
yeah,
Like, of
right.
course you do this for people. Of course you do it. These are
Right.
my these are my neighbors, my friends. They're human beings. Of course you do this. Of course you. We had a family of a woman who lives in our neighborhood whose father, believe it or not, was an SS officer in the town of Cologne, of Cologne. And he discovers that the tobacconist that he buys his pipe tobacco from is a Jewish fellow. And he says to the tobacconist, "You gather your family up and come to my home tonight." And they hid a Jewish family in their country home for the entirety of the war. He's a colonel in the SS. And this woman who is talking to us, she was a little girl, and her job was to bring provisions to the family. And there was a family secret. You don't tell anybody that we have friends living out in the
Right.
forest. And when we asked her again, like, why would your father do such a thing? Ish tamim, the
Right.
sort of simplicity of goodness, where she said, "Of course you do this. Of course you do this. It's not. It wasn't like an anguished heroism. It was a simplicity of decency. And that's when you read Noach, it's like a guy who walks the world and says, "What is going on here? This is just not the
Right.
way it's supposed to be."
Right. Right.
And that's the disappointment. I like to think of the God of Noach as a representation of the idealist. You know, because the opposite is a person who would say, well, of course it's rotten. That's how human beings are,
Yeah,
which is
exactly. Yeah.
sort of what the Torah says. He comes to the end of the story. He says, you know, the imaginations of a man's heart are evil from his youth. I won't destroy the world no more. Which is
Right.
like, all right, now I have to become realistic because I understand what I'm dealing with here. But I still love the idealistic God who expects more of us. I just love
I
that
do.
image.
I absolutely do, and it speaks volumes to me about the authors who phrase it a bit differently, each one of them, but
Hmm.
it's the same deep disappointment. It's the same heartbreak, if you will. I mean, I really, it's not I thought I did something great. I'm God. I know I did something great. I created the world, and I created you in my image and my likeness, and I
and I
told you that.
and I gave you freedom. You see,
Yes,
no dog will ever disappoint you because his dog's always going to be a dog, you know,
right,
and a tiger and a porpoise, they're all going to
right.
be, you're the only creature in the world that I gave the opportunity to determine your own destiny in the world.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And what have you done with it? What have
And
you
what have you
made with
done with
it?
it? Right.
What
What
have
have
you
you done
made
with
with
this
it?
Gan Eden, this Garden of Eden that I gave you? It's a
Yeah,
wonderful, sad in some ways, disturbing.
it
And then,
is.
of course, but the beautiful thing is it's not the end of the Torah. Like
No.
the Torah ends with Noah. We're a very depressive religion, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But you turn the page and you meet a new character, and his name is Avram.
right.
And God says to him, I got a mission for you, kid. Well, he's 75, so he's no kid. All right? Hey bracha, be a blessing.
Yeah,
Fix this world for me, huh? Fix this world.
yeah.
And so you turn the page and there's a deep hope at the end of the story that we're not done yet. That there's
In a world in which in which God uh, is in everything,
mm,
it can't help but be hopeful. In other words, there is something. That's why, it depends on who you're asking. Why it says Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Why the shamayim first? Because I don't want to create a world in which future or heaven is is not there first before I put you into it.
there's a horizon. There's a
Yes,
horizon to this world.
first, and then
Right.
you come into it.
Right.
And that always means that you're always walking forward. If you look at Bereshit, it's a bet, and the bet is open to the rest of the Torah.
Right.
It's like a house with a door open. Okay, walk out now and go
Mm,
that way, not backwards. We know what happens when you look backwards. You become a pillar of salt. So you're looking forward. Ein Letzion, Sophia, right? Like in the Hatikvah, the eye is trained on Zion towards that goal, towards
mm.
that direction, towards holiness. And so, yes, there is hope here. Uh, very definitely is hope here. But it's not silly hope. It's not stupid hope. It's hope that says that sometimes you're going to encounter uh, a terrible event, the flood, and it's going to ruin just about everything you've ever known. And yet, and yet, there's a
And
dove
yet,
to be sent out, there's an olive branch to be brought back. You can get off the ark at the end, you can plant a vineyard, you can be fruitful and multiply.
there's a
There is a
rainbow.
future.
There's a
There is a
rainbow.
rainbow, correct. And there's
And
a covenant. with humanity
Right.
from now on. And that's wonderful. I love that.
Beautiful. Thank you. On that note, that's beautiful. That's a great way to end. When will the book come out?
Well, I'm in the final editing it, getting comments from different people. I need to hear back
Hmm.
anybody to challenge, hey, you got this wrong. Once that's done, which hopefully should be within the month, then I
Ella.
need to make sure that it's published because it matters,
Beautiful.
especially
Well,
now.
thank you. We look forward to it. You'll come teach for us.
Thank you. What a
It would be a
pleasure.
great joy. Donnie, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom to you and your
Shabbat
family.
shalom.
Kol tuv. Shabbat shalom.
Bye. Shabbat shalom.